Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Per 36 podcast. I just realized we weren't recording, but we're trying again today. Very special episode with Spencer. Maybe we should start over again, but Spencer Pearlman.
Don't let them know we already started over. They don't need to know that.
Oh, all right. We didn't start over. We're perfect. We're one take wonders. But yeah, I mean, today's episode we recorded a few days ago, but as we were just discussing in the lost files of the unrecorded intro pod, it could really still be accurate for a long time. I mean, we just talked about the draft and stuff, which really shouldn't change. I mean, maybe we'll release this in October, we were saying.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of what we want to get into today, just us two, besides we have one argument that not argument, but there's definitely one topic in which it's going to get animated between us, because I actively and I would say aggressively disagree with your take on this. And I don't know if I'm usually this vocal when I think you're being a dumb Bootum. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I guess we can get into it now. I mean, similarly, a topic of this court debate of scrutiny. I don't know the adjective. I'm running out of words, but I just personally am not too high on LaMelo Ball as a can't miss prospect, considering all I really see him do is miss. You know what I'm saying? Because
you're such an asshole.
I'm not. He just.
Okay. You get I'm gonna give you like 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Opening remarks.
Once it's mine, I'm not holding back. There will be no holding back.
I mean, I won't hold back either. It's just look. It comes down to me. I mean, again, I'll just say the three numbers: 37, 25, 72. Like that's that's what he shot in the National Basketball League, the very highly vaulted Australian Basketball League. LaMelo Ball shot this atrociously when his main appeal is his offense, and he was like the worst, scorer and shooter ever when that's like his main. I mean, all right, his main stick is his passing. I'll give him that. Like he's a very good passer. But my point is, we've seen a lot of good passers that suck, and I call some controversy when I compared LaMelo Ball to Kendall Marshall, because similarly, this is an elite.
Don't even call it controversy. You are it's insult. Okay, I'm gonna bite my tongue. Simon's biting his tongue.
But I'm just saying that he's an elite passer, but this is a man that has shown zero signs that he can shoot. He has an ugly shot. He shoots it a lot, and it doesn't go in. And I see a lot of people being like, "Oh, it's great. He has that confidence." But like, I really don't care. Like, so many players could shoot like 7 times a game and shoot 25% on threes. It would be one thing if his shot. I mean, here's the thing. It's like I can forgive a broken shot, but not if you also are a bad defender. And it's also like a lot of the time he's apparently like not trying on defense, and you're a bad shooter, and you're a bad finisher, and you're not getting to the free throw line. And when you're getting to the free throw line, you're not shooting well on free throws, which is supposed to be like an indicator of how good you can shoot. And also, I mean, again, LaMelo is not Lonzo Ball, but I'm just saying, we saw Lonzo Ball in college. He was literally like the most efficient player ever. He had like a 67 true shooting percentage. And then he was and he had a broken shot too, but he shot 41% on threes. And it wasn't until this year that he was like a good offensive player. And like, he was so like, again, and this is a guy that he wasn't really good his rookie or really first 2 years. And this is a guy that was also an elite passer like LaMelo, but he was also a way better defender and athlete and a more efficient and better shooter coming in. So when you have all of that, I just don't – like I'm saying, if Lonzo could suck with the same level of passing, I'd argue, if not better, and a better shot, more athleticism, and being worse at defense. Like I don't know. I don't see it with LaMelo. Like
okay. I have to go in now. I have to. So here's what I'm going to say. I understand what you're saying, but I can tell you that within the next 12 to 16 months, we will be back, hopefully in person, and I'm going to give you your own humble pie to eat. Because here's the thing.
Missing
Now, I'll explain.
He had a 44 true shooting percentage, or like 45. Like the league average is 50. Like, why is he going to learn how to shoot?
Okay. You're done.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, okay? So people, and especially, people like you have thought that, I'll put it this way, it's very easy to be skeptical over LaMelo Ball, and I accept that. And I was probably one of his biggest skeptics in the beginning. But all I've heard since the kid was 14 from not only LeVar, but from Lonzo is that no, like Melo has the chance to be like by far the best.
Even the word of LeVar Ball.
I'm gonna keep going, okay? He is almost 4 inches taller than Lonzo, okay? For as special of a passer that Lonzo is, I mean, that was his main trait coming in, right? He was a marvelous Jason Kidd level passer. LaMelo is as talented, if not more talented of a passer, because of his ability to get to the basket in a way that Lonzo gets to the basket, but when he gets to the basket, it's more on straight line drives. You know what I mean? It's a quick first step, and it's burst.
But like LaMelo doesn't really have that burst, does he? Like,
but
I'm not. Like, I'm saying he's unathletic.
But in some ways, I actually am happier about that, because what you see from LaMelo is a genuine feel and kind of a way where he plays, where he's constantly changing his pace and tempo and playing speed, which is how, I mean, it's a big indicator of success is ability to change speeds, ability to stop and start, he does not have one clear playing speed. I mean, his athleticism, once he puts on more muscle and gets in better shape, I have no worries about his athleticism. But just in his herky-jerky and the kind of fluidity of his game, I'll take that over Lonzo any day. Okay, and you have to remember, I love UCLA. I loved Lonzo more than any college player in a while. And I'd still think LaMelo is a way better prospect in the sense his touch around the rim, you cannot compare Lonzo's touch to LaMelo's around the rim. I mean, you made a comment just now about how his finishing, you called him not a good finisher. I mean, that to me comes a lot with his body, right? He's just now growing into his frame. A year ago,
how many players have had I get all that, but again, he's shooting 25%. Like, how many I mean, we're talking about we just talked about Kevin Knox. Like, just because you have the body to that can
of
grow.
Course.
Like, is it gonna grow from the worst to good, or even below average?
Here's the thing: you are a very big numbers guy, okay? And you look at the analytics.
I understand the numbers can fit. I was on Lonzo, and he went from the most efficient college player to the worst. But that's kind of my concern at the same time. That
that's my concern.
Already starting so low. Why is he gonna?
Boot. That is my concern with your take. You are being very close-minded. Okay, you're being a little stupid. I'm telling you, you watch the tape. Watch the tape.
But I watch the tape, and it's
how can you say
the eye test fails me too? Because
how
he shoots it, and it's he's hoping it goes in.
He's more broken than Lonzo's.
Because he shoots it like
Did
this.
You see Lonzo's Kevin Martin on roids coming out of UCLA, and he only shot on step backs to the left. Lonzo's
they at least went in.
41.
They were kind of fluid. There was a sports science thing on it. They kind of he got them off quickly.
Dude, this is it.
This is it. It started off messed up, but then it went it kind of we shouldn't be motioning this much on a podcast. But
I'm telling you right now.
It's a bunch, but it went in. LaMelo's also I'm saying I had the eye test.
You also have to understand.
I watched his highlights of his 30-point game, his 3-point triple double, and it looks bad. In one of the highlights, he bricks a wide open 3, and then he gets his own rebound. Also, so many of these highlights I see, the Australian defense is no good.
Okay, this is where I'm
like
saying
I
that,
had the eye test too, and it doesn't look good when he's good.
This is
That's my
this
point
is
too.
where
Like
I'm
I had
saying.
the eye.
Okay, this is where you're being stupid because any Australian team is gonna beat any college team. Okay, any team in Australia, and the worst team in Australia is greater competition than
I'm
playing
sure.
against Duke.
I'm not arguing that, but it's still like but it's still way worse than the NBA, and he was still very not good.
Okay, you're saying he was very not good, but however, he was like considered the best player in the entire. Okay, he was obviously he was named Rookie of the Year. That's not even. But he was considered like realistically like probably the best and most and the player that affected the most scouting reports in the entire league. And I get that Aaron Brooks at this point in his career is not much of a force, okay? But Aaron Brooks was a 12-year NBA veteran, okay? Like
Yeah.
And LaMelo made Aaron Brooks look like me in the 7th grade basketball tryouts.
That's my other concern because people like people to prop up LaMelo are like, well, if you look at like the 5 games he played without Aaron Brooks, he was like a slight positive and he shot like 30% on threes. Like that's still like not so great. And also like Aaron Brooks, like the fact he couldn't play against Aaron Brooks, who's like I don't know, like the inefficient shooting RJ Barrett, the nasty basketball.
Don't give me this like Luka Dennis argument. Like I don't know, maybe if you can't play with Luka. No.
I'm just saying there's so much like. I'm just saying
people use those. I'm just asking you why in your head then are the smartest scouting minds so high on him? Are they
like just they like the highlights? They like the pointing at the half court video.
No, they don't like that. No, that's the thing they hate.
But what's changed since that? Like his whole career, it's been like the LaMelo show. Like you let him do what he wants, he scores 92 points.
I'll put it this way.
And like it's still the same thing. Australia, he shoots like 1,000 times a game. Is this gonna be like like that Phoenix Sun? Like I love Lonzo too. I watched all his games, and like I remember like Lonzo Ball in like his 3rd game, he had like 30-point triple double, and it was like the most. Like, it was kind of like exciting because he was young, but it was also like the most trash like existence ever. Like where he just chalked times it's a bad team. Like that's what LaMelo reminds me of. Just like let him run the show and chalk and get his numbers up. But like I don't think
if LaMelo was shooting 35% from 3, would you say the same thing?
All right, but like again,
because Trae Young in college playing for Oklahoma. Okay, now Trae Young in college shooting from a college range 3 shot 36% for the year. Okay,
yeah, that's
obviously
good.
It's fine.
That's 10% better. And there's no saying he's even gonna get to like 32%. And even say he is getting like 32%. Like say
he's gonna end up as a 38% 3-point shooter.
See, that's just such a that's a 13% lead when he also shot 25% with Vitautas too. You know?
Okay. Wait. Okay. First of all, he was 14 playing against 38-year-olds in Vitautas.
Right, I'm just saying there's been like no proof that he's like legitimately a good shooter. And like say he improves a little bit. If he's like not a good like finisher or free throw drawer, like say then like why aren't you like even if he gets up to 32%, like wouldn't you just let him shoot at that point? Or if he does clap the defense, like are you not going to give attention to him if like he can't finish or anything either? Like I don't know.
Listen to this. Okay, do you know? I'm going to Spire now. I'm looking at LaMelo's Spire Academy stats. Okay, now at Spire he shot 34% from 3. Okay.
But also 69% on free throws, right? Which again is like an indicator of like that's not like a Steph Curry like under 70% on free throws is not it's not good. Like 34%, like that's not bad for like high volume. Like I'll give him that. But 25% is, and like again I'm saying like it's not just the stats, it's the eye test. Like I watched his highlights. It was like 32-point trip. Like I started off like on the pro LaMelo stuff. I was LaMelo pro, and like I watch him. Like it's not like it is the eye test too. Like he looks stinky, and then the stats just back that up.
Stinky, boo! You look stinky. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna say. If you're gonna tell me right now in this draft, okay? I'm not saying he's a can't miss prospect. I'm not saying I would take him over Zion or Ja or even RJ. Okay. I'm not saying any of those things. But what I'm saying is, if you're telling me that you'd rather take Anthony Edwards or
Well, no, I mean, I think everyone stinks.
yeah, if you're telling, but I want to know, besides Killian Hayes, and I'm telling you, Killian Hayes is good, but if you think Killian Hayes is going to be better than LaMelo from the eye test, I'm going to call you
Well, like Killian Hayes looks smooth on the eye test. Like that's a guy too, where he shoots 29% of
small.
yes,
He's smaller.
He's good. Step back. He's like a mini Harden,
Small,
and he's
smaller.
still efficient despite like not being able to shoot, unlike LaMelo, and it doesn't look as broke.
Boot. Killian can barely play with his right hand. He can barely dribble with his right hand. Okay,
I feel like that's always like I feel like you always pay attention more to that with the lefties and righties. Like I'm sure it's the case. Like I feel like you're never gonna hate like a righty player for being like right hand dominant.
LaMelo is basically ambidextrous. LaMelo is as fluid. With
I mean, I don't really know.
Okay, I just have a proposal. I'm asking you. Let's say we get the first pick of the draft. Okay, first pick of the draft. Who in your mind? Who would you rather have?
I mean, I probably would rather have Killian Hayes, but it's not just that like it's not like I'm opposed to like drafting LaMelo at all. It's just like I'm just really concerned about the man, and I really don't think I trade up to get him. Like you have to get him. Like
I don't think they're gonna trade up. I don't think they're gonna trade up.
I'm just saying a lot of people would like to see that. Like making Zion. Like you gotta get. Like I'm not even opposed to trading up. It's just like I don't know. I just think the dude could be bad. Like I'm just saying. Like we bring up Trae Young later. We're talking about him now. Like this is a dude that like is so close to like currently like not being that good because he's like a great shooter and passer, but a piss poor defender. And like LaMelo probably isn't as bad a defender, but he's also nowhere near as good as a shooter or finisher. So like, dude, I don't know.
Dude, I challenge you. I don't think you can say that Trae Young is that much better of a finisher. Okay, like LaMelo, I buy his finishing. I buy his finishing more than I buy.
Trae Young also gets to the free throw line. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he drew a lot of fouls. And he got 9 free throws a game this year. Like I don't know if LaMelo's able to get that. And if he does, if he's shooting like 73% on them, I don't know. There's a lot of. All right, should we just wrap this up, or should we touch on the coaching stuff quickly?
We could touch on the coaching stuff quickly. I mean,
all right. So the brand new news today is that Mike Brown has been added to the coaching list, and the final list is like him, Tibbs, Miller, Atkinson, Ime Udoka, Will Hardy, Chris Fleming, Jamal Mosley, Pat Delaney, and Big Mike Woodson. I don't know. I mean, I took the time to compare Mike Brown to Tom Thibodeau and be annoying again by saying that because he has a good winning percentage, that means he's good. But I don't know. What's your take on the coaching search? I just think that like I kind of feel it's silly. And again, we did the same thing last. Like it's not bad to interview a bunch of coaches, but it also like I don't know if I'm really like it's not something I'm like complain about, except for the fact that I think it's kind of silly they're interviewing like every Spurs coach but Becky Hammon. But like I think due diligence is kind of it's a little silly. Like if you're gonna be, I mean, it's because that is probably what happened with Fizdale, where like they got conned by just like a great interview. Like you shouldn't be judging your coaching off like a 30-minute Zoom interview, Like it should be like your candidates are like Tibbs and Kenny and Mike Miller, and you're like using the Zoom to like see who would really be like a good fit. Like I'm not gonna actually like kvetch. Like it's not a bad thing, but like it's not like due diligence is a good thing. Like I don't know.
Here's the thing. In my head, I could see one of these guys joining us as an assistant coach. I like Jamal Mosley from what I've seen from him and from what I've heard that he's done in Dallas. Okay, Jamal Mosley seems like a really good candidate. I mean, like you were saying. I mean, who are we to criticize any Spurs assistant coach? You know what I mean? But also, it's okay, it's a little cliche, right? Just like scoop up the Spurs.
Also, I feel like again, I'm not like an actually roast, but it is kind of funny that like finally when like the Spurs are like no longer like making the playoffs like a vaunted organization, that's when we're like, all right, let's poach the Spurs coaches. Like now that they're like washed up and not making the playoffs, like all right. Like
here's what I'll say. I just don't know how much, like, I just don't know if now's the time for us to hire a first time coach. Like, that's kind of how I look at it. Is like it's with the lack of continuity we've had in that position going back. It's what is it? Derek Fisher, Hornacek, Fizdale, Mike Miller.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I mean that's why I would. I mean, I think they want to keep Miller no matter what, but like that's why I really would not be opposed to keeping Miller. Like every year, everyone uses like the continuity argument, which is like a fair thing, but it's stupid when the coaches suck, which like it does like every single time.
I don't want. I love Mike Miller, and they should and they need to keep him on the staff. But you're telling me you wouldn't be a little lukewarm about entering the season with the same old.
Look, I mean, like well, I don't know. It would be consistency, which is nice, but like I don't know. I mean, he's definitely like shaky and stuff, and it's not like I think he's like like a coaching mastermind. I just think like this is the first time where it's like you're using the consistency argument. This is the first time where it's like, yeah, keep him, but not like keeping Fizdale for the sake of keeping consistency. Like I don't know, but just keep him on in some capacity, which. I don't know. I feel like they should, which it's like probably like the one time where like they're able to do. Like I always feel like it's kind of silly where like when like a coach gets like fired and they're not able to like because it makes sense, but like
yeah,
like it's one of the rare times where like an interim could feasibly like keep being in the organization. Like I feel like it's unfair sometimes. Like an interim gets a job and like then they get like fired completely. Like come on, like there's a different thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we get into the interview with the Pearlman.
Yeah, and here we go. Yeah, this was a nice little juicy, fired up intro you guys got, and now it's gonna be a way more measured conversation.
Yeah, now like someone who's actually like watched LaMelo play is gonna educate me.
Yeah, an expert.
Like has actually who actually like follows the draft and stuff, not just talking out of his ass and looking at mock draft stats and Tinkathon mock, All right, hope you guys enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Per 36 podcast, first one in a bit, and a very historic episode. It is the first repeat guest of the Per 36 podcast.
You're our first returning guest.
Very cool. I'm honored. So nice. We had to have him twice. I mean, I don't know, just great scout, Spencer Pearlman. Thanks for coming on.
You bring a good rep to the scouting community in the way that Scout with Brian brings a bad rep to the Twitter scouting community. You are like the polar opposite in terms of everything.
I feel like most people use Twitter to argue. I use Twitter to inform, and Brian uses Twitter to inflame.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, I don't even... Brian just, like, looks at every scenario and just tries to be, like, the worst human imaginable. But
it's only a matter of time before he's on Fox Sports.
Yeah. Take Jason Whitlock's spot.
Yeah.
I got the block though, so now I'm free.
Congratulations.
All right. So speaking of Twitter debates, I had inflamed a good deal of the Knicks Twitter masses when David Zenon tweeted about his LaMelo Ball's unorthodox form. And I tweeted a picture of that unorthodox form being like, what's the deal? Like, why is everyone liking this unorthodox form if it's not really going in? And, a lot of people were not happy about that tweet. It was created quite a stir. And then Spencer himself had to come into my DMs and inform me. And Kendall Marshall comparisons were made. Things got off the rails, and now I guess we're talking about it here.
I resented you for bringing Kendall Marshall's name into this.
It was something I had been thinking of. It's just like the perfect, most annoying comparison if you're trying to like defend LaMelo Ball, and then I compare him to Kendall Marshall. But I very much enjoyed watching Kendall Marshall for Mike D'Antoni's Lakers when he like averaged like 15 and 15 his first like few starts. It was a nice little run there.
Now, wait, Spencer, when it comes to what you've seen from LaMelo, because I'm a big, just like you, like LaMelo's the number one guy on my board. Knicks have the first pick tomorrow. I'm praying they take Melo. But
Right.
what have you seen besides? Because me and Alex can argue all day because Alex doesn't buy his shot and I do. What can you say, like confidently say that you like his shot more than you liked Lonzo's coming out of college?
Yes. Just because in terms of it's like transferability or like the transition from handle to shot, just it's a lot smoother, despite it being an also ugly shot. Like when Lonzo was in college, he was hitting step backs, but they weren't those like lightning quick, one hard dribble, like split foot step backs that LaMelo can take, and he'll hit them at a decent clip, I guess. Is that chocolate milk or is that coffee?
It's coffee with a lot of milk in it. But I also been having this chocolate protein shake, which is like mostly just chocolate and chocolate chips. Got a lot of beverages going on. Got my Poland spring water bottle here too.
I've got my water jug.
That's an enormous jug. Oh my god.
Yeah, I drink a lot of water. But yeah, I mean, the shot I think it's easier for LaMelo to be a threat with it off the bounce than it was for Lonzo, because Lonzo could not go right. Like when he was dribbling right, he was not taking a jump shot, just period. Because he couldn't, because he had to bring the ball to his left side, and when you're dribbling with your right hand, that just doesn't work. LaMelo doesn't have that. He has other issues form wise, and like his form is far from perfect. Still needs a lot of work. Oh crap! I freeze.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah. So his form still needs a lot of work. It's just it's better than Lonzo's.
Well, my question is, it just got posted that SNY tweet, where, well, not SNY, tweet, but of you a bit ago, talking about LaMelo, and honestly, a lot of the things you said matched up with my current thoughts now, and I just don't want to say too many things at once, but. Yeah, all right, so let's keep it at that. So really, what has changed for you since that original video? Because I mean, I agree with a lot of things. The concern for me is that, he's not really a great shooter or a great defender. So, what's the deal outside of his passing? So I was just wondering, like, what's changed for you since then? I mean, I know you've told me a bit on Twitter, but for the masses.
Yeah. Honestly, it was just kind of like redigging into everything else, and like, yeah, I mean, this isn't working. Just kind of like figuring out what his role would be a little bit more, and just focusing more on his defense. Yeah, it was rewatching everything, and I just finished up going through his shots for like the third time now, I think. I mean, like comparing it, one after another with, Halliburton, whose form is also pretty bad.
Yeah.
Hayes, who has better form, but he has pretty horrible footwork on catch and shoot jumpers, though it's really good off the bounce. That's just kind of like what changed everything. And even when I did the video at the end, I still had LaMelo really high. I think that was still when I had Killian first. So he was still second probably on my board at that time, but it was just like, going back and watching the games again, because what else are we going to be doing for the next, 4 months?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, we're getting into like the teeth of this debate now. Like we still have a whole season to play. Like I think it's like 4 or 5 months until like the lottery and draft even happens. So
It's so
we got
disorienting.
got a lot of time.
The draft being in, what is it, September?
October 15th.
October 15th. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I kind of just want the season to be canceled, and I want a sim to draft. I need a and go to player progression, see how much Steve RJ's gone up to an 80 overall, and just move on to the next season.
Yeah.
I guess my other question is, I could be mistaken. You were, I think on the last pod, you said you were like low on Trae Young coming out of the draft, like that, or so. I mean that was something that like, and I think you said that as like one of like your quote unquote like mistakes, but that was something like even now, I think it's still safe to be skeptical of Trae Young. So I was kind of just wondering your comparison with him and LaMelo, because Trae's a guy where this dude is averaging 30 and 10, and I mean, it's not really the same because I know LaMelo's not as bad a defender, but this is like the concept to me. My concern with LaMelo is also, even if he reaches his peak, you have a guy like Trae Young who's averaging an efficient 30 and 10, and there's questions of how, much of a, good player he still even is, because his defense is so bad, and even with those great stats, because like I don't know. My question,
I will say before Spencer answers, is going into the draft last year, it seemed as if it was pretty split down the middle on either. Like looked like Trae Young was going to be like Jimmer Fredette, or he was going to be like Steph Curry. Like that was kind of, I was like, okay, it's one or the other. He's not just going to be like a mediocre, like, oh, like this is a surprising rookie. Like it's either going to be catastrophic or he's going to run the league. And the thing with LaMelo that I think is different is, I mean, think of just the difference on the defensive floor with the fact that he's 6'8". You know what I mean? And just the length. Like Trae Young has, like, it's a completely different body type.
I guess, but also I'm just going off what I'm saying. I mean, again, I've seen like an embarrassing amount of LaMelo to be even like debating this, just from what I'm going off of. If he's theoretically a bad defender, and the difference between him and between LaMelo and Trae and Jimmer is that, to me, there's still questions with his shot. So you have questions with his defense and his shot to even get up to that level, which still may not be that good. I don't know that. So I guess my question is, what is your, what discerns, what's the difference between LaMelo and Trae that doesn't concern you? Well, I'm not phrasing that well. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I guess just going back quickly to Trae, I wasn't low on him, that I thought he was going to bust. I just didn't think he was going to be this good. My comparison that I throw around was a much better passing Lou Williams. And, I mean, obviously,
I think that's pretty fair. I don't know.
Just like the defense, I didn't think the defense was going to be good, period, because he was a horrible defender in college and he was just so small. I had some concerns with the shot because of the low release point. But when you're shooting, 6 feet behind where the defender is playing you, it doesn't really matter that much. And then the finishing, I actually don't know how he's finished in the NBA, which I should probably go back and check, but I didn't really buy that in college because it also wasn't particularly high, although I bought the craft that he had getting to the free throws, getting to the free throw line. So what separates LaMelo then is, I mean, obviously the size, as you said. He's 4 or 5 inches taller than him, and he actually has a frame to add, another 15 to 20 pounds without slowing him down at all, if not maybe a little bit more. And that size is really a big differentiator, because if Trae Young were not, 6'2", 170 or 6'3", 170, whatever he is, he wouldn't be getting beat up on every screen. He would be a little bit more switchable in terms of, him maybe not having to defend every point guard. If they're a little bit bigger, he could go off and defend, just like a plain 3-and-D small forward without having to be posted up. So with LaMelo, his footwork is pretty bad. I still think he needs a lot of work there. But in terms of like his size, you can put him on a small forward and not have to worry about him, just being backed down as easily as Trae would. And then even the defensive comparisons in terms of the rotations, Trae, like, he didn't try on defense. LaMelo, he tries. Maybe not every possession down, but they're like, I posted a few clips of him. Yeah, like him rotating.
Posted of just his rotations where you're just seeing like this is really promising. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like his rotations are actually good. It's just, he has to finish out the play. So he'll rotate into the paint instead of just swiping down at the ball. He should try to contest it. Stuff like that. And then, rotating along the perimeter, keeping the shell. I thought he did a pretty good job there. But, then there are times where he's just kind of like disconnected from the play. And another thing that kind of separates him, actually, it's not even like separate anything, but when you're as smart as he is on offense, the odds that you're as dumb, for lack of a better word, as people think he is on defense are incredibly slim. Like, if Trey were 6'6", he wouldn't be this bad defender because odds are, like, he knows where to be on defense. It's either A, he doesn't want to try, or B, he's too small, if not both. So, like, we've seen the rotations with LaMelo, and, like, you see the IQ. It's just he has to finish out the plays. And, again, the size is huge. And, like, even him contesting to three, I think he did a good job there. He just got, like, really, like, pissed luck. He had really pissed luck in terms of the result. Like, there are a number of bank shots, just shots that had no business going in that would go in. And, yeah.
No, that makes sense. And also just thinking out loud, it's probably easier to hide, even if LaMelo was a bad defender. Because of his height, it probably is easier to just hide him than it would be to hide him on Trey. Like, if you just put him on like a shooter, like non-shot creator, it's probably easier for a tall fella like LaMelo than Trey. Also, you just really triggered me with that word shell, about running that drill in high school, shell drill. That's not, it's not fun.
Now,
not bad.
No, it's all right.
I want to kind of ask you about how you tier, because it's a draft where there's no real consensus on how the guards are tiered. And when I look at it, I have LaMelo 1, I have Killian 2. With me, it's kind of, I want to hear your opinion on this. It's a little bit of a toss-up between Halliburton and Kyra Lewis. And then kind of in the tier after that is like where you get like Cole Anthony. Trying to think, is there anyone else?
Maxey?
Yeah, I would even put Maxey.
Edwards.
I would put okay. So no, I wasn't even thinking about those guys, but I would put Maxey in that Halliburton tier. Weirdly enough, I kind of want, like, how do you see that kind of falling? Do you think it's the sort of situation where it all depends on team fits? Because they seem to be like very specific pieces where it's not like going to be a consensus between the teams. But I want to hear.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a weird draft because, as you said, there is no consensus number one, number two, or, I mean, even just like breaking it into tiers. I'm sure you could ask a dozen scouts in the NBA and they'd each have different tier ones, tier twos, and then I'm sure most people would have similar tier threes because that's kind of where, there's a drop off of some sorts, and it flattens a little bit. But I mean, Halliburton, I'm probably lower on than most, not because I think he's going to be a bad player, but because the fit is so difficult with him and that you need like a jumbo initiator. And like, I guess it also comes to defense. Like, yeah, he's a fantastic team defender. He is a pretty bad isolation defender, and his frame, despite what Sam Vecini thinks, I don't think he can really add another 20 to 25 pounds. And, neither of us really have any expertise in that. I think maybe I might know a little bit more because I'm, 6'4", 210, and I played basketball, and I also worked with like people who would actually develop muscles when I was in high school. Like, I worked with trainers and stuff like that. Yeah. It's not a shot at him.
I was about to say, Cini, you have been called out. Your reputation is on the line. No, sorry.
It's just like, it's hard to actually find the perfect fit with him because he's not guarding point guards. He can really only kind of guard small twos because he's so thin. And on offense, like, yeah, you can definitely run some swing pick and rolls for him, like, what the Jazz do with Donovan Mitchell. But if you're giving him the ball and asking him to initiate from a standstill, he is completely screwed because he's not attacking the paint. He had 22 finishes, I think, in the half court off pick and rolls and DHOs and ISOs, which is horrible. And he has no pull-up game. So, those things, like, that's why I have Kyra and Maxey and Cole all above him.
Yeah.
Even though
you have Cole above him too.
Yeah, because I'd buy heavy Cole's shot.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. We're not big Cole guys here, but I think it's pretty hard to dispute Cole's shot will eventually fall, and
he was a good shooter this year. That's the thing. Like off the bounce and movement, he was a good shooter. It was just he was the only shooter for UNC. Like I think on non-Cole shots, they shot 27% or something like that on threes.
What do you think about Kyra over Cole in terms of what do you think Kyra does significantly better than Cole?
He creates advantages more, just because of that speed. Like he is, he's a one-cut running back, whatever they call it. He plants and he's gone. And neither of them, I think, are particularly great passers in terms of vision, but in terms of making passes, I think Kyra beats him out pretty handily because he's throwing live action passes, left hand, right hand, that are accurate.
Yep.
And at the speed that he's going, you don't need to be some amazing passer. You don't need to be a Chris Paul because the second you get into the paint's collapsed. So if you can make those quick reads that he can do,
I saw that one play he made where he, I think, brought it into the paint with one dribble, entire decollapse, and then he had that left hand pass that was crazy. Like I think he faked with his eyes to the corner, and then the decollapse, and then he had a left hand. Like that's what really. I mean, then continuing to watch it sold me. I definitely like him. I think as the third best point guard in the draft. And I view Maxey as a combo because
I'm the same one.
I'm a big Maxey guy because I'm a big Kentucky fan, but I don't think I ever see him being all the time.
No. He's someone who I actually kind of want to see in Dallas. Talking about Maxey.
That's a good pick.
But yeah, Kyra is someone who I could actually trust to run an offense, even if it's just like a plain pick and roll heavy offense, because he's gonna find looks. He will make shots for his team, and he has pull-up jump shot ability, even if Coach Oates didn't really want him taking it, which is why he didn't finish very well. Because same thing with Cole, he'd attack a clogged paint. And he's also the age of like most freshmen. He's like 19 or something like that, which is nuts.
And
Cole's, I think, is almost 21 or something.
Yeah.
Like yeah. Cole's our age. He just got held back. Like if you're counting Cole as a freshman, I should be like the number one prospect right now, honestly.
What about redshirt sophomore 23-year-old Obi Toppin?
I don't want to anger people, but I'm super low on Obi.
Yeah, I mean, I look, I don't know anything, but Obi Toppin just seems like I mean, again, I really know nothing, but he just seems like a guy that just like I don't know how anyone's high on him. It seems like he's an old guy. He's like relies solely on athleticism. He like can't play defense. Is this like I don't know? You're just like hoping he becomes like Amari, I guess.
I mean,
I don't know.
Like how I think about it is like, what does he do better than Miles Bridges does? Like, what does he do that Miles Bridges can't do?
I mean, he's a better passer. He's a better finisher.
Finisher. I mean, who would you rather take as a? I mean, Miles Bridges isn't a great defender either, but how low are you on Obi's team defense in the NBA?
What did I say in the last podcast I was on? He's like a 4.5, but he can't guard either. Something along those lines. Like, his hips are incredibly tight. He just kind of moves like someone tweeted saying he moves like he's a 70-year-old man with hip problems.
I've seen a lot about his hips, and I don't think I've seen anyone mention any other player's hips like ever. And it's not like I even like followed the draft that much, so it must be really bad hips.
Yeah, but I mean, he's gonna be a good offensive player, assuming you get him in a pick and roll heavy offense where he can then make plays off the short roll, and he's a good finisher also. But with just how bad he is on defense, you need to be better than that on offense, and I don't think you can get to that point. From just like an individual defense perspective, but especially from a team defensive perspective, because he does not rotate well either, and even Dayton fans would say the same thing.
What now?
Yeah.
With a guy like Denny, kind of what's your take on his possible ceiling? Because he's he's beloved on draft Twitter, and I've been hearing about him for a really long time, and we see all those videos on Twitter of him shooting shirtless in the gym, hitting like 30 shots in a row.
And he is he's a chosen
MOT.
He's a chosen man.
Yeah.
MOT. Yeah.
Yep.
He's gonna be like the highest drafted Jew since like Dolph Shays. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think even I think first Israeli since Omri.
I don't know. Amari.
Zeusman. Well, was Zeusman drafted last year? I don't think Zeusman was drafted.
I don't even know who that is. I feel like I would know. I don't know.
But yeah, what's your take on kind of where you see his ceiling lying?
I mean, player comp wise, I don't have one. I think just like the way he plays, he's a jack of all trades, master of none. That's just kind of who he is, and I think it's not a first option, it's not a second option. I think that's a solid third option, like a good third option, and I think it's a great fourth option. And if you buy the shot, and I think I made it pretty clearly that I also buy the shot, despite the inconsistent percentages, and then obviously the free throw percentage. He does a lot. Like, he's an awesome cutter, maybe the best or the second best cutter in the draft. He's an unbelievable finisher. He finished like 80% of his shots in the paint in the half court this year.
Oh damn.
Yeah, he's a really good passer. He's not Luka level, like nobody is, but he's maybe elite, sub-elite passer for someone his size. And his defense, he has to get stronger, especially if you're going to be playing him at the 4, which I think is probably, he's a 4-3, 3-4, probably more minutes as a small ball 4. Or at least I think that's where he'd be most impactful. But he's another smart guy. Like, he's very smart. He does a really good job, keeping the shell. Sorry.
It's fine.
also rotating into the paint, and there are concerns with his wingspan. His reach is obviously, that's the most important thing when you're talking about defending the rim, and his reach isn't great. But being in the right spot helps alleviate a lot of that, and he does a great job being in the right spot.
How do you I don't know if you saw, there was a video of him today in like an Israel intra-squad scrimmage where I saw the vision where it's I know you used to say he's not Luka-esque, but there is some Luka. I mean, he's not as good as Luka, but there were some Luka-esque plays, and he had a pretty crazy finish at one point. But how do you explain I'm not asking you to explain, but how I don't know. How do you why do you think he's such a bad free throw shooter, and why are you not? I'm not saying you're not concerned, but why do you still buy the shot despite that? Because 50% is it's bad. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really bad. Not just for in terms of that being what's it called? Something you use to think of that maybe
indicator.
Yeah, an indicator of his 3-point shooting, but also even if he is a good 3-point shooter, that's so bad to the point where it's that could lower him as a prospect. If he's shooting 50% on free throws, which is Shaq level. I mean, what do you think that? I don't know.
I think the free throw percentage is just mental. I just do. I think his shot's too good for it not to be. It's not like he's shooting MKG with the elbow coming across, or some weird. Who is it? Who's the old Knicks center played for the Bulls who shot way above his head?
Bill Cartwright. Classic animation.
Yeah.
That's Kurt Thomas.
Kurt Thomas. He doesn't have bad form. It just doesn't go in. And the 3-point percentage isn't great either, but he's had some pretty just random stretches where he'd go at 0 for 12, something like that. And then when you actually break down the shots in terms of when they are during the possession, the last 6 seconds, he's horrible because Maccabi just tells him, hey, you're either catching and shooting or making the shot on your own. Yeah. And, those are mostly heaves. But when you take those out, at least this was back in February or like early March, he was shooting almost 40% in catch and shoot threes. And that was before the form tweaks. So this was, when he still had the weird back hunch. He still had a long dip, which I don't care about. I don't really care if you have a short, long one, whatever. The ball just has to go in. So I'm really curious, to see how he's going to shoot now with the new form. And like he's going back to, again, what you said with the passing. The reason I say he's not Luka-esque is because nobody is. Like, LaMelo, like Luka, Trey, Ja, those are all just kind of like special passers. But in terms of, just pure small forward, power forwards, he'll come into the NBA and he'll be one of the top small forward, power forward passers.
You think he's like a Turkoglu? Kind of like a prime Turkoglu? You could see like those really good years on the Magic when he was just like an all-around creator, like 6'9".
I mean, in terms of maybe impact, yeah, I can see that.
The way that you described like a really good third, if not incredible fourth offensive option, but also a guy that's going to contribute just in terms of playing good all-around basketball. That's kind of like the first comp that comes to my head. As like
I mean, it's not like it's not wrong, and I don't think any like comparison is wrong. I think you could say jack of all trades, master of none type thing with his passing ability and his questionable shooter. Maybe there's some Iguodala there. Although the defense isolation's not there, but team defense, I think it's elite. He does not bad.
Wait, I know that there's someone that's become a absolute darling of this draft, and I've seen you talk about.
I think you're about to say who I literally was pulling up the tankathon of, but continue.
Well, I don't know, maybe, but I was gonna say there's this. I'm now looking towards. Obviously, the Knicks have a second. They have the Clippers first this year, and
maybe not.
We're definitely not going to say that. But
I mean,
I've seen.
I know who it is.
Is Desmond Bane.
Yeah.
And it seems with all the smoke I've been seeing around him as the best catch and shoot player in this draft, and one of the strongest on-ball defenders. That. I mean, I feel like there shouldn't be this much of a chance of him dropping to the mid to late 20s, but that's where he keeps being projected. Like, what's the deal with him? Is he really, really just a solid all-around player?
Yeah. So I mean, I think he fell, or he's falling, and first of all, I think every board right now is just kind of it's crap. I think boards, especially from the media, I think teams, and I know teams feed them bad information, because why would you tell someone where you have someone if they're going to then put that to the public, and then maybe another team's going to bring someone else up. But in terms of Dez, like I have him as a top 20 player in this draft, and he doesn't have this ultimate ceiling that someone like LaMelo does, but both he and Xavier Tillman, if I were to bet on two players being positive impact guys for the next 10 years, and I mean like actually bet, and I don't gamble at all, I would bet on those two.
I mean, I saw, doesn't Tillman have some crazy thing where he, in terms of finishing, he's almost like a perfect finisher around the rim? Like,
so it was like 63%, I think, on non-dunk finishes in the paint, which I'm pretty sure is the highest number I've seen.
Yep, I saw you post that. That was crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, Dez, he's a great on-ball shooter. He's a great off-ball shooter and movement. He doesn't attack the rim like at all, and he's been working on that. Like I know that for a fact. He's been working on his handle, but his defense, he doesn't take a possession off, whether it's on ball or off ball. Like there's one crazy play versus Texas where he was defending. It was either all 4 players or all 5 players in the half court, and he was going from one player to another. And so I tweeted that out. He texted me and he said, I still remember just how tired I was after that. But like, doesn't matter how tired he'll be, what he has to do, he'll do it. And
I feel like he has that mix of intangibles, but he has an NBA ready body. Like he's incredibly NBA ready body in terms of just comparing him to what I've seen in the draft and just what I've seen. Now, would you just have him do you see him slotting in as just a guy who, as soon as he gets in the league, is just going to defend at his highest possible level, highest possible like kind of effort level, and then just eventually, whether it's straight off the bat, like you buy his shot no matter what. Like that's one thing. Like like.
I mean, the results kind of speak for themselves, and his form it's not picture perfect. I told him it's a little bit like Page's, and like if it goes in, and it goes in, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'll definitely come in day one. I think he's going to be a legit positive defender, and the number of rookies you can actually say that about is pretty slim to none. And I think he's whether it's on ball or off ball or who he's defending because he's so strong. I think he'll be fine. His wingspan is short. He has a short wingspan, but my counter to that would then be if you're switching him. You're going to be having him playing, some bigger guys in the post, and someone like Marcus Smart, his standing reach is 8'3". Des Baines is 8'4". Yep. So it's a little bit longer. Just jacked out of his mind.
Yeah, literally jacked out of his mind.
So my draft darling, who I think was also yours, and God, looking at the date, he's like younger than me. Like that's screwed up that players are starting to be younger than me. I don't like that. It's not as easy to like yell at a player for sucking when like you're talking to someone younger than you. But anyway, my man, who I think you tweet about, I know you tweet about him, who I like, even though I don't know if he's actually going to be good. For Alexis Pukosevsky from Serbia. I mean, that's just like an absolute Bootum player right there from Serbia. He's like so skinny, it's stupid, but per 36 he averages 17, 12, 5 and 3 blocks and 2 steals. I mean, that's just like stupid, and the fact he's doing that as like a stick, like I don't know, I love that. Well, what are your thoughts on Alexa Pokus?
I mean, I just call him Poku. It's a lot easier.
But also, his name is essentially Alex, so like that's pretty cool too. I mean, that's not real name.
It's another plus for you.
Yeah.
He's I think in terms of just kind of like pure talent, he's either the most talented or like the second most talented player in the draft. He's like legit 6'11". Yeah, like he can do everything.
You see him kind of like, I don't know. I just remember as Knicks fan, but like Chris now it's like basically a curse word. But if we're talking about Kristaps coming in, do you see
he's a better offensive player than Kristaps was at the same stage?
Wow.
He's a better offensive player than Kristaps now. TBA.
Sort of. Do you think he's the sort of player?
We'll see.
It's possible the NBA is way higher on than the public, where like right now we're seeing him mocked in the 16 to 24 range. Like, is it possible draft night comes and he's drafted 9th overall and people are like, what the hell?
I think it's possible. And I was speaking to someone who's not with the team, but he talks to people who is with teams, and he said that one GM told him that we're not saying a word about Poku because we want him to fall. So I mean, Poku, he's not a consistent shooter yet. But I think that's partially due to just kind of his role as the off-movement shooter for his team. He's 6'11". They're running him off double screens in the baseline. They're running pick and roll for him at the top of the key. He's everywhere. But he's more than just a shooter. He's, I think, the best passer in the draft. I think it's him, and then I think it's Tillman, and then I think it's Obi. So, I mean, Kristaps was not a good passer coming out of Sevilla, and he's still not a good one.
Yeah.
Will he hit?
That's the worst trait.
Yeah. Will he hit Kristaps' impact? I don't know, because, Kristaps he's a great rim defender. But I guess I'd be kind of a fan.
Do you see him defending in the paint, or do you see him kind of being drawn out and guarding more like stretch fours?
I think it's probably more of a stretch four thing, at least to start. And like as skinny as he is, he's 205 pounds maybe now. I think he can get to 220, 225 easily, and you're not going to be risking losing any movement because like he's skinny now. He still moves really well. He's 6'11", moves like he's like 6'5", but his calves, they're not stick thin, which makes me think that, the muscle that he puts on will be mostly in his legs and his upper body. And that's not going to slow you down unless if he gets like 250 or 260.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I just love watching this guy play. He's like looks. I mean, I don't know. It's like comical. I don't know. I love it. I hope he's good. And yeah, it's concerning because like with how much time there is for the draft, it's kind of hard for there to like be so much time for like someone to like stop. I feel you have to imagine that with so much extra time, like teams are gonna know like it isn't gonna be any like surprise. I feel.
Yeah.
Just to go back. Oh, sorry.
Spencer, do you think there ends up being any sort of workout protocol pre-draft? You think it's just whatever's on the tape now, what's going to happen?
I mean, wasn't there a report saying that they're trying to like figure out some sort of combine for
Yeah,
like
I saw
September?
that a while ago, but I wondered like how would they do that unless they're going to do another level type situation.
Sorry, my Alexa is apparently talking to me. Yeah, like I want them to have a combine. I want them to have some sort of thing. I don't know if it's going to happen,
Yep.
just because you'd be having people flying in, like for a
Yep.
day, and there's
Yep.
no 2-week quarantine. There's no nothing, and COVID's obviously thrown a huge wrench in everything. And I have no idea.
I had another
Sorry.
question. I was just going to ask you about one player who this could be my bias here, but this is someone who probably won't be considered till one of the last picks of the first round, if not first 10 picks of the second round. It's a guy who I think has a chance to really, really surprise people as one of the best on-ball defenders in this draft and one of the best pure shooters in this draft, Emmanuel Quickly. But no, I'm serious. Like I always think like I try to like, okay, is this my Kentucky bias, or I mean, are people just low on him because of his frame and his size? But he's the best free throw shooter in the draft. He was almost like a almost a historical free throw shooter. Watching every one of his games this year, the amount of really tough contested threes he would hit, coming off screens, and seeing just the effort he put next to Higgins playing defense. I'm really high on him as just some sort of a contributor as soon as he gets into the league. Have you delved into him at all?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know if I personally wouldn't pick him in the end of the first round, or really in like the beginning of the second.
Would you take him like mid to late
I'd
second
probably
round? Would you take him
like mid to late second round. Yeah. But I mean, the shot's legit, and his touch is really good, and he's another guy who you can't run an offense through, so you need to play him next to another, jumbo initiator or some sort of primary.
Yep, exactly.
But if anything, teams value shooting, and he definitely brings that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So just go back to what we were talking about before about fit. I'm just again to go back to my man LaMelo Ball. I just have concerns about his fit because, and I'm just wondering what you think. I mean, I feel like the fit with him is probably just, it's kind of like a guy where you just give him the ball and let him run everything. But
do you think RJ as a backcourt? Like,
yeah, I mean that's
each other?
That's kind of my concern because, like, I mean, I don't know. Again, this is a guy who, like, his whole career has essentially been. I mean, I guess he played with Lonzo too, so not entirely true. But like his whole career, it's like the teams have been like, where it's all about him, and like and he's like the whole team. And just now he played for a team he like practically owned and then literally owned.
Spire. He had Rocket Watts. There's a few guys on Spire.
I'm just saying, like, generally it's teams where it's just like it's the LaMelo show, and like as you've pointed yourself, he played better without Aaron Brooks, which was also as the season went on, so maybe just got better. But and not that Aaron Brooks is like the greatest. Aaron Brooks is the greatest player of all time, but he did score at like a decent rate, for Australia. So like. My concern is just like if he obviously LaMelo not necessarily fitting with Aaron Brooks isn't the same thing as Dennis Smith not fitting with Luka, but I mean what is your thoughts on his fit, not just with RJ but just like generally his team fit in the NBA.
So I think his off-ball ability is a little bit underrated. So in the beginning of the season when he was with Brooks, they actually, maybe 4 or 5 times they were actually running him off screens, which might not seem like that many, but when you consider how many games he played with Brooks, it was, maybe 1 a game or a little bit under a game. So I think in terms of just kind of like that, I think he can play a little bit off the ball a little bit. And then I think his cutting, I think he's a good cutter. He's not Denny or Ant in terms of setting their guys up, but he'll get to the spot and he'll finish or, get a good look up. Now, in terms of his fit with RJ, I mean, sure, there could potentially be issues there because neither of them are really known for their shooting. They're both a little bit more ball dominant than, not. But the way I see it is LaMelo's passing and so, as I said in our tweet chain, his ability to pull from above the break is huge. So he was like 34% or 33%, whatever. It was 15 to 46 on above the break threes off the pick and roll and dribble handoffs. So imagine that with Mitch. So you go under the screen, he could pull it. If you go over the screen, you have a lob. And if the lob isn't there because help comes, he's creating a good look for someone else, whether that is RJ or, Dotson, or if they select Bane in the late first round. So I kind of think that LaMelo is just his ability to create looks for everyone else kind of makes his fit pretty, seamless, unless if the guy is just a pure ball dominant guy. And I don't really think RJ is. I think he obviously prefers to play on ball. But in the beginning of the year, and as you've seen from all the Bootum videos with Julius Randle, he played a lot off ball, just not getting it. And if you have someone who can attack and actually pass it out on those looks, he'll get open threes, and it would just come down to him hitting them.
Yeah, also despite my LaMelo criticism, and skepticism, I guess, I do like the sound of some Melo Mitts lobs. That would be some good times. Also, just with concerns of RJ Melo fit. I mean, RJ is just a weird player where I don't really think you necessarily say anything is a great fit for him necessarily anyway. So I don't know.
He's tough to fit with most people.
Yeah.
But
now, there's one last before we get to our asking you your quote unquote per 36 All-Star of this draft class. Before we get to that, one person we haven't really covered who I'm just curious upon, who I kind of think is a little bit of an enigma in this draft, is Anthony Edwards. Mm-hmm. Do you just I mean I obviously like all the potential and the flashes he's shown at Georgia. There's some step backs. He's had some just great one-on-one possessions, but I'm a little skeptical just on his immediate kind of contributions. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's someone who I think his outcome is going to be heavily dependent on the coach he plays for.
Yep.
So if he were to play for a Fizdale or a Whitson or a kid who's just kind of he'd end up being terrible. But if he plays for
Tibbs, I feel like he's the type of guy that would work with Tibbs.
So Tibbs, Atkinson, guys like that. I think they'll do a good job maximizing what he can do and limit the stuff that he can't. But I mean, he's weird because he's 6'4", 6'5", 225, a great athlete. He's a great finisher in the paint, and he can make and take some really impressive shots from all over the court. But he disappears for huge stretches on both ends. His shot selection, it's pretty easily, I think, actually the worst in the class. I think it's worse than LaMelo's.
Yeah.
He needs to rein it in a lot. So.
Yeah, I part of me hopes that it was just him on this Georgia team being okay, I have free reign, and I hope that's not something that translates into his mindset in the NBA. But watching a lot of his games, I was always oh my God, he has no conscience when it comes to the shots he's taking.
Yep.
Okay, so now if we're gonna get into kind of Our
Well, yeah. Well, what are we doing? Because we already have asked him his per 30 All-Star in the past, haven't we?
I guess we got Desmond, but who's one more guy besides Desmond Bain, besides Poku? Is it like, and besides, I mean Tillman, I guess he said maybe you are in it, but is there like a Patrick Williams? Is there a mid-tier guy who you're like, I just like him, that we haven't brought up? I mean, like anyone we haven't brought up, like a Josh Green, a Sadiq Bey, like any of those guys.
Yeah. So I mean, he's good. He's another guy who I think was kind of misused at Arizona. They should have used him a little bit more on ball, because then they could have played Nico off ball. Yeah. And I think that would have helped their offense a lot, because Green's a good passer and Nico is a good shooter. So I mean, Josh is definitely one of them. I think someone who, like, people know is incredibly talented, but he's always hurt. Killian Tilly.
Yeah.
Like if he can just stay healthy and he doesn't have to play 35 minutes a game, he could play between 15 and 20. Like, he'll be another positive impact player. He's someone who I also really like. And then, there's one more person I was going to say.
I think is it the guy from Nova? Is that Bay?
Nah, yeah, that's Sadiq Bey. I'm not a huge fan of his. Like, he'll score.
Who's the guy from Colorado?
Tyler.
Oh,
Tyler,
yep.
Tyler's good. It's actually weird with him, because he didn't take many threes, but they would also, the threes that he would take, it seemed like a good chunk of them were actually off movement, and his form's fine. Like, he's a safe bet to, hit 36%, I think, on decent volume. And with his defense, I think that's, obviously a huge positive. I have one. I have it. I got it. Isaiah Joe.
Really?
Yep.
I like that one.
Yep.
I never heard anyone talk about him from Arkansas. He was always one that.
He's very good, and I think people are going to look at the percentages and see the low from three is like 34%, and the low stocks didn't really average many assists or anything like that. But he's a good positional defender. He's someone who will completely let it fly from three in a good way. Like, his 3-point rate was like 0.7 or something crazy. And yeah, I mean, more of a catch and shoot guy than like a movement guy. I think the movement will come, but he can also create a little bit for himself off the bounce, which kind of separates him from even someone like Nesmith. So, like, between Bain, Nesmith, and Joe, like, in terms of value, I guess, and just who I would select, I would take Des first. I'd take Joe second. Then I would actually have Nesmith third. I don't know how many people actually think like that. I think, Jackson Frank does actually, and a few others from draft Twitter, but I don't know who else.
Jackson Frank unfollowed me. I guess he did not. I didn't use pip him enough for him. I don't know. Shame.
Maybe you set him off with your LaMelo slander.
No, it was before that. I don't really know. I don't know. You just could. I don't know. A lot of draft Twitter just doesn't, like, advanced stats draft Twitter just not a fan. Ben Pfeiffer unfollowed me, and advanced stats 23 blocked me over Porzingis slander. I know the root of that one, but it'd be like that sometimes.
You have to wear it like a badge of honor. You are a
Yeah, I don't know. I don't use. In all my advanced stats, blind tweeting, I never use PIPM, so like PIPM. So maybe that's what they got against me.
It's an actual good one. It's a good one.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't know. I'm an RPM man. But all right. So I guess that's be about it. Spencer, thanks so much for coming on. You got anything specific you want to promote?
No, I mean I'm on Twitter.
And with so much time between now and the draft, I mean you're gonna keep. I mean, I know you get a lot busier as the draft comes on. I know you're on the Locked On Knicks podcast.
Yeah, it's completely ripped them off. Did the same thing.
Yeah, we just stole that question. But I guess we'll have to see how this bubble experiment goes, and maybe we'll talk again closer, kind of maybe like lottery, maybe like when we have some info, we'll talk again.
Yeah, sounds good for me.
Awesome.
Right. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Spencer.
Take care, guys.